Welcome. Welcome to the NAP, the no answer period, where we cover the question period prefaced by a review of the far left evil that has beset our land and the events that surround it. The NAP precedes question period by 45 minutes, and we will cover the lower house until the government decides to stop showing up. We also keep score, described in the description below. We are streaming on 3 platforms, Rumble, X, and YouTube, and I just noticed the title on X is yesterday's date, not today, so yes, we are there. I think let's hit a little repost there. Yeah. Let's do that again. We are live. Please join us. And post. There we go. I'd like to thank all my followers and subscribers for doing so. And if you're new, please give us a like, thumbs up, follow, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. I see we have a few more subscribers and a few more followers on Rumble. They're both competing to reach that grand number of 500. We're almost halfway there. Almost halfway there, which is the magic number for actually starting to monetize on YouTube. We're slowly monetizing on Rumble, but nothing really to speak home about because we're still growing the channel. So by the way, comments drive the algorithm when I'm not driving it down with my forbidden words, and the chat is up on all 3 platforms, so don't be afraid to say anything. And we will go straight into the intro, and we will be right back with a review of what happened yesterday in question period, and maybe cover 2 more events, and then we will get into a question period. So let's do that.
And instead of clearing the air, we now have the spectacle of Liberal MPs filibustering at committee to shield the minister from accountability. So it begs the question, is this what Canadians can expect a Liberal majority government to look like?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Speech yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that.
The Minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears.
It's really hard to follow, isn't it, Mr. Speaker?
All of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Know that this government has their back and will continue to do therefore, there's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Deficits are driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Hey, of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest.
Mr. Speaker, the grand reveal has been
Canada's
made.
economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
Move on, man, move on. Point of order. There was some very unparliamentary language that we heard today.
Sets us up well for the new world order.
It is a generational project, one that is desired by people in that member's riding and people all over Canada, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lake.
We've got the government House Leader disagreeing with his finance minister here, and this is the confusion that's created for Canadians. It's the finance minister who said that he needed to recuse himself from the discussions. He said he needed...
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
My comment by telling the truth that the answer was bovine excrement.
What I'm seeing today from the government is a government pursuing confusion, a policy of confusion, and a policy of confusion that has the whole province of British Columbia upset. So earlier today in question period, the Minister of Indigenous Relations said that the government will pursue all legal options. Can she just clarify for British Columbians whether that includes an argument to protect the private property rights of the British Columbians impacted by the Cowichan decision? Yes or no, a straight answer in good faith.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk about the dream of high-speed rail for Canadians. 1,000 kilometers of linear project that will change the face of mobility in...
There are important issues we're discussing, and Canadians are watching.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's be clear. This band of conservatives is who is sowing dissent and anxiety in Canada. The government has been crystal clear. We support some respect.
I didn't really hear all the words there, but it was an interruption, so the minister may start from the top.
Pretend like you're talking to
And he may from the top again if the honourable member for Thompson-Nicola continues. So the honourable minister of... Okay. The honourable member for Lakeland, I think it is. Okay, the honourable member will be... the honourable... Let's just all take a moment. Take a moment. Okay. All I know is that we don't have the required silence, and unfortunately, I can't hear all the banter. That's the unfortunate part. So I don't know who's to blame, who was first, and all of that. But let's have some quiet so that the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure can start from the top and answer this very important question on this very important issue.
Well, welcome back. If you'd like to see that entire intro on its own, it's always available as a separate video, both on Rumble and YouTube. And we also usually put it up on X in the article section. You can find it there as well. Well, what happened yesterday in question period? Well, no Conservatives, Liberal or Bloc Quebecois leaders in the House yesterday, but plenty of unanswered questions. The Liberals' one-third measure in partial reduction of the fuel taxes was called out as ineffective. They adopted the Conservative plan, but of course, as always, they don't even do things in half measures. That's why it was like a third measure. It wasn't even a full measure, and it's only a partial measure. But as usual, the Liberals applauded their breadcrumb handouts as being more than enough, along with their other National Socialist programs most Canadians do not have access to. Right? So they talk about the school lunch program. Well, yeah, that's only good for a small segment of the population. And then, of course, the dental program. And, of course, we found out that so many people think they're in the program, but then they're not. And then if they don't file their taxes every year on time, then they get discontinued from the program. It's they put out these programs that just don't put much thought into it. The government-funded media was whined about by the Socialist Bloc as being insufficient because the pool of taxpayer-provided funding, money the taxpayer could better use themselves, is now spread too thinly amongst the English media as well as the French. So you got to remember the Bloc Quebecois are even more far-left socialist than the Liberals themselves. So, of course, they think that the government should provide money to everybody, for everything. Like, nothing can exist within the province of Quebec unless, of course, the government has their hands in it somewhere, either funding this or providing a receipt for that or a credit back or controlling something over it. It's always about control for the far left, especially in the end, just to grab more of your taxes so that they can, fill it back out to where they think it's important, like to the dying media that most people aren't paying attention to anymore because they know the media just lies to you. So why don't we look at that clip from yesterday where they were talking about their media. Let's cover that. There we go.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, regional news is in jeopardy. The situation's even worse for regional news in French. That's why the Fund for Independent Local News is so critical. But since Ottawa allowed 15 English language stations from the Chorus Group to access the fund, the share allocated to French language media has plummeted. The only two eligible French language groups have lost nearly half their funding, which has dropped from 26% to 14%. Of course, the solution is for the GAFAM to contribute to funding media. But first, as a priority, regional French language news needs to survive. Will the government enhance this fund? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, thanks to the fund, we know Francophone regional media sources are receiving funding from the federal government precisely to provide French language media. We are keeping all options open in an environment where these platforms and these broadcasters are under threat from these major platforms. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, funding regional news media in English, no problem, but not by taking money away from the French media's share. If the government adds participants to the Fund for Independent Local News, well, it must also add funding. Obviously, we wouldn't have this problem if the Prime Minister hadn't cut the digital services tax. We could have adequately funded all our media with GAFAM's fair share.
The media used to fund itself, right? We don't need to fund the media. The media will fund itself. The demand will find the market, and the market will provide the demand. But right now, the government feels that it needs to provide what it feels is the demand. And of course, they're wasting our tax dollars for it. Right? Oh, it's all about entitlement. Oh, we're all entitled now. They're more entitled than we're entitled. It goes on and on and on.
Since the Prime Minister is depriving our media of that revenue, will he increase the fund? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as I said in my previous answer, we are looking at a number of options. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, by adding 15 English language stations to the Independent Local News Fund without funding from the GAFAM, we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. The result, 86% of the money goes to English language media at the expense of the last remaining independent French language regional news outlets. Let's be realistic, Mr. Speaker. There is no long-term solution without contributions from GAFAM. But there need to be media outlets left to support. The government must temporarily bail out the fund, and it must extend its tax credit for journalistic labor to electronic media, as Quebec has done. When will that happen? The Honourable Minister. Given the question that we've just heard, you can see the real face of the Bloc Quebecois. They're always pitting the Anglophones against the Francophones. We can do both at the same time.
Now that I found funny. Oh, they're pitting the French against the English. We can do both at the same time. Yeah, that's right. And you have pitted multiple people against each other in Canada because that's how you rule, by dividing people and ensuring that some people are more equal than others. It's always been something that you do. Yeah. As well, the Bloc also brought up the lack of EI support for seasonal tourist workers, something they have been calling for movement on by the Liberal Party for 10 years, they say. Obviously, this has been a problem for a lot longer. Now, we know that seasonal workers have always had the short end of the stick, and there were no greater seasonal workers than those fishing on the East Coast. The fishermen out of Labrador and Newfoundland for years. I mean, they were constantly messing with their fishing grounds and then telling them how much they could fish, and because all the while not actually protecting the fishing grounds from parasitical other nations coming in and fishing those grounds that belong to us in the first place. So they didn't protect the grounds, and then for their lack of protection, then they went out and said, well, then you can't fish there anymore. Meanwhile, the other nations are coming in and fishing anyway. So anyway, those seasonal workers, it took a long time for them to finally start getting some decent EI support. Now, of course, they're not the only seasonal workers. However, if you're going to get involved in something like tourist work, you must know ahead of time that that is seasonal work, right? It's not a seasonal work that actually provides a good. It's only seasonal work that provides a service. So in service industry that is seasonal, I'm sorry, folks, it's not like you're actually providing something. You're not providing food. You're not providing energy. You're providing entertainment. But of course, for the Bloc and the Socialists, it's all about ensuring that everyone gets a slice of the pie. But meanwhile, forgetting who actually provides the pie, and most of those people that are providing the pies are tired of making pies and not getting their slice of the pie, and they're taking their pies and they're leaving the country. Anyways, let's watch what the Bloc said about their seasonal workers.
The Honourable Member for Shefford. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Here we go again. Every year, seasonal workers are plunged into the black hole of employment insurance. Workers in the fisheries, forestry, tourism, and other sectors receive no income for weeks on end. The Liberals, for now over 10 years, have been promising comprehensive employment insurance reform, and they must keep their promise. But in the immediate term, seasonal workers need 15 additional weeks each year. When will the Liberals finally and permanently close the employment insurance black hole?
Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, employment insurance is really important for all workers. That's why it's important to improve the program and to include those things that are required for individuals who are in very difficult circumstances.
Measures to ensure that workers that are facing hard times get what they deserve as fast as they can and ensure that they have the weeks they need to stay financially viable.
The Honourable Member for Côte-Nord, Kawachi-Kamach, Nitassinan. Mr. Speaker, seasonal workers are not asking for the moon. The Interprovincial Employment Insurance Alliance has calculated that it would cost 1 cent per $100 of wages to close the black hole for good. 1 penny. The federal government will need to understand that it is the work that is seasonal in the regions. The workers, however, are permanent. They are the ones who keep the regional economy running, and they need 15 more weeks each year. Will the government finally and permanently close the employment insurance gap?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
C'est très important, les travailleurs.
It is really important for Canadian workers to have confidence in the employment insurance system in this country. That is why we've included measures to support workers. And I will be working with my colleague there to listen and find ways to help the workers. The Honourable Member for Mécantic-l'Érable-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, once again, this Liberal Prime Minister is confirming that Conservatives are the ones with the real solution.
So, Patty, had you that just answered that question to the Bloc Quebecois. Remember, she is also the same minister who is working on ensuring that forced labor continues for flight attendants who work in the airline industry. Because if you don't recall, and this was brought up in a house a couple of weeks ago, that basically, until the brakes come off the wheels on the aircraft, the flight attendants are not getting paid. That's right. As soon as the brakes come off and the plane starts moving, flight attendant pay starts. But up to that point, all that work they're doing, they're not getting paid. Now, I don't know if they actually pay someone to actually sit up at the counter and, turn on the terminal and look at passports and all that. But that additional crew that gathers around that little station when you're at the gate and then they end up going down to the aircraft and they're helping out that person there, that's all on their free time. They're doing that work for free. So what do the Liberals do? Well, they did a probe. They did a probe for 6 months, right? And during that time, they talked to everybody except, of course, the actual flight attendants. They don't actually confer with stakeholders. They confer with people in the industry, people who run the airlines, maybe somebody in the union, but not somebody that actually has to work on the plane, right? So then after their 6-month probe, they decided that, I think we need to study that probe for another 6 months. So they have no respect for workers. They only have respect for what ends up in their own pocket. So when they say, oh, yes, it's something very important we need to look at. Yeah, I guess you've been looking at it from afar for 10 years, and it's really not important to you. Until, of course, you have to provide, free lunches or free dental or free daycare for people that don't have jobs. And then, of course, ignoring all the while that the lineups keep getting longer at the food banks, and the food banks are running out of food. So the Cowichan Land Treaty and property rights issue took up the largest portion of the question period yesterday, with the Liberal government's failure laid bare. The government failed to make the fee simple property rights argument in the lower court. Therefore, it cannot be appealed in the higher court, which means the government will lose in court. However, the Liberals just lie, stating it's nothing but fear-mongering by the Conservatives. But as usual, the Liberals refused to state that property rights were going to be protected. So the concern is real, and the Liberals, as always, are lying to hide their incompetence. And the proof is in the pudding. The banks won't give a mortgage because they're not sure. They're not confident. Right there, nobody's building homes. Nobody is improving on their homes because nobody has confidence in what is happening when it comes to land rights in BC. It's a complete sideshow. It really is. So we do have a video up on the site. It's the nope, not that one there. Here we go. Liberals abandon property rights. And you can see all the questions, all the non-answers, and all they want was, what are you going to do? And they keep saying, well, we're going to do that. And then, of course, the reaction is, and you can hear from the other side of the room, like, what? What are you going to do? How? But they won't answer. So if you saw the intro, the last 2 minutes of the intro was a piece of the session yesterday, because the opposition just wants some answers. They just want some answers, anything. I mean, we're used to non-answers, but it's getting so desperate now. I mean, we're talking about people's homes, and they won't take it seriously at all. They won't take it seriously. And so that's why the speaker had to stand up, because the room was just getting too loud. And watching the lower house yesterday, there was a lot of yelling. Most of that yelling was actually coming from the far end of the Liberal side for some strange reason. But the speaker let it go on and on and on, until finally he stood up there and held things up for like 2 minutes, and he's like, come on, enough is enough. I expect there probably will be more today. The finance minister's unethical alto machinations, with him voting for and promoting a company his wife as vice president at, was questioned. The Conservatives want the minister to appear in committee, but the Liberals have been filibustering the committee to prevent this from happening because he's guilty of an ethics breach. The Liberals need to keep up the illusion they're not criminals enriching themselves and their friends and their family. I believe we have a little piece on that. Where are you, my friend? Is that you there? Nope. Oh, I guess I lost him. Well, let's just watch the interchange yesterday.
We, like Canadians, care deeply about nature, and we will protect it.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, for more than 8 hours, Liberal MPs have been filibustering to shield the Finance Minister from appearing before the Ethics Committee to answer questions about his role in directing billions of tax dollars to the Alto high-speed rail project, notwithstanding that his partner is none other than a VP at Alto. This raises serious questions about a potential conflict of interest. If the minister has nothing to hide, will he tell these filibustering Liberal MPs to stop and come to committee?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as that member knows, Canadian members of Parliament, designated public office holders, we follow among the most stringent ethics rules in the world. We will comply vigorously, as has my colleague, the Minister of Finance. And I would take this opportunity to remind the honourable member across that Alto is a Crown corporation, 100% owned by Canadians.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, the minister has acknowledged a conflict in respect of Alto, hence setting up the so-called ethics screening. Yet he has repeatedly introduced, spoken on, and voted on legislation to advance the project. And instead of clearing the air, we now have this spectacle of Liberal MPs filibustering at committee to shield the minister from accountability. So it begs the question, is this what Canadians can expect a Liberal majority government to look like?
Good question. The Honourable Government House Leader.
While we're on the topic, Mr. Speaker, let's talk about the dream of high-speed rail for Canadians. 1,000 kilometers of linear project that will change the face of mobility in this country for workers, for students, for people who live in one city and work, play, or study in another. This will take greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere and will change life for millions of Canadians, Mr. Speaker. This is the kind of project Conservatives used to dream about. The Liberal government is going to build high-speed rail with or without.
The honourable member for Hastings, Lennox.
Now, it's interesting that he did mention that the Conservatives had this in their platform a long time ago, but guarantee that the problem is with Liberals is that they just don't use common sense. Sorry, did we have a look? You hear? Oh, that's interesting. I don't know why I can't speak right now. I mean, I think I do know why. I've got too much data on my laptop. I've had to order another drive. It's a problem with making all these videos. I mean, I got some other drives here, and they're all full. So you gotta clean up the drive. Take the strain off the CPU. So it's interesting enough that when they talk about this Alto plan, the big difference is the Conservatives would actually have a plan, right? Because the Conservatives have asked, where's your route going to be? You don't have a plan. You don't have a fiscal breakdown. You're just going by the seat of your pants. It's a complete boondoggle. Like, anybody would run a national project like that and not actually even have surveyed the line that you're going to do. I mean, now they're just going here and there. And if you're watching the show this morning, Rebel News has been over up at Madoc asking questions of people there are going to get their lives destroyed because the government's going to come in and just take over property that's been part of their families for generations, and communities that are just going to get destroyed when they get halved. And so it's a 60 meter wide corridor, but it could be expropriating land 10 kilometers on either side. That's insane. Of course, they're going to do it anyway. Why? Because for them, it's all about power. It's all about power grab. And they know that. Look at what they did in Mirabel way back. And that was where the Liberals as well, when they built that airport, which can't even get traffic to it. And it got so bad that even under the Progressive Conservatives, when they decided to buy a replacement helicopter to replace the Twin Huey, they went ahead and bought the Bell 412, Bell Textron, being made at the Bell Textron facility at Mirabel, knowing that the plant would run for about 5 years. building the choppers, building spare parts, and that hopefully in that time they would be able to attract more customers, which they did, which worked out. But in the end, that airport is still not working out at all. And all that land that was expropriated now sits fallow, not being used. And speaking of fallow, if you ever hear about the 30-30 plan that they're talking about, oh, we need to preserve 30% of our wilderness, so that they're going to go along and force landowners to set aside 30% of their land to let it go to fallow forever. I'm just like, excuse me, can we look at the map and see how much of Canada is actual perpetual wilderness? There's no way you're putting roads up there. So why would you even need to put that into place for landowners? What? Because it's communism. It's slowly stripping away land rights and making it more difficult to live in this country just the way the Liberals like it. Now, the Liberals were asked why they voted for Iran to be part of the UN. I can't understand. Like, why would you do that? Why would you vote for Iran to be part of the UN Human Rights Commission? That when that country treats human rights according to Sharia law, killing and torturing their own citizens? The Liberals delivered an incoherent non-answer that didn't explain why they supported a terrorist state. So hopefully someone will ask that question again today. As it looks, and everyone else has pointed out today online, is that, did you just like read the wrong talking points to that question? Like somebody said, hey, if anybody asks you a question on Iran, read these talking points. But it had nothing to do with the question. I mean, you could have given a better non-answer than what you did. Just have a listen to this.
The honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, Iran is a serial violator of human rights, and because of that, the government formally designates Iran as a state supporter of terrorism under the State Immunity Act. However, last Wednesday, the Liberal government voted in favor of Iran's membership to the United Nations Committee for Program and Coordination, which plans, programs, and coordinates human rights at the United Nations. Why did the government vote in favor of Iran's membership on this committee?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Our Prime Minister has been very clear. We are currently supporting and making sure that civilians and civilian infrastructure must be protected, international law must be respected, and we will stand for the safety and security of Canadians wherever they may be over the world. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to monitor the efforts that are being done in Iran. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for...
Yeah, so what the hell was that? I'm telling you, like, once they prorogue and reset the committees, they won't even need to filibuster like they did for 10 hours, asking to try to get the finance minister in. Yeah, they filibustered in the committee for 10 hours to keep the finance minister from going to committee. Now, of course, they won't have to filibuster anymore once they reset the committees and the Liberals will have a majority, and they will just shut down the committees and not let the Conservatives or any opposite view or any other constituents that they represent have their voice in those committees. That's the way they do things, right? That's who they are. They've pretty well proven that. They're proving it right now. They don't really care. They just like, oh, here's a talking point. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't answer the question. And we've seen this over and over again. I mean, it's bad enough that I call it the no answer period. But in some cases, they actually do try to give an answer without really answering it. But she didn't even try. She wasn't even paying attention, probably. Somebody went, hey, who's got the Iran talking point? Oh, you do. Oh, you answer the question. Maroons, all of them. Meanwhile, the NDP, with very few seats, seem to be asking some decent questions for their constituents. The NDP asked what the federal health minister will do about Alberta expanding healthcare choices the NDP don't want Canadians to have because they are communists and only want the government providing care. And none of that nasty private healthcare, even though it's better and available immediately and not 2 years down the road. You know, if you're following the Liberal death care waiting list road that all the provinces have been subjected to because of the mass influx of unvetted migration into the country that's has added lineups to every social service, especially healthcare. Now, of course, in this aspect here, I don't know why they asked this question, because provincially, each province is responsible for this part of the healthcare. So what is he asking? Is he asking the federals to not give them transfer funds? Transfer funds, by the way, which do come mostly from the oil-rich province of Alberta. It's insane. I played a story yesterday about this man and his wife who lived on Vancouver Island. And after 2 trips down to the States to try to get his wife to live, because she had cancer, needed treatment. And the 3rd time the cancer came back, and they said, that's it. They moved her down there, and they got the congressman to expedite getting this guy a green card within 3 months, unheard of time. Basically, to help this guy get out of communist Canada so his wife could have health care. And guess what? Guess what our medical care system offered to her? Aside from bad, next to no cancer treatment. Oh, things are rough. Would you like some maid? Yeah. Canada's being run by a death cult. And of course, the NDP can't really see that either, because they kind of love the same policies, don't they? Meanwhile, the Green leader asked if the Liberals actually follow science after their plan to close multiple agricultural science labs for their unknown ideological reasons. Now, this has been questioned repeatedly in the House by the Conservatives as well, because the majority of the farmers out there are all voting Conservative, and they're all like, why are they closing these agricultural science stations that they have peppered throughout the country that work specifically for that region? Because each region has its own soil issue, its own climate issues, its own fauna issues, and of course, different crops in different latitudes, growing differently, different weather patterns in those areas. But no. As usual, the Liberals are anti-science because they politicize everything, especially science, and we saw that during the COVID stupidity, didn't we? Right? They certainly politicized that medical treatment, and made it sure that anybody who questioned their politicized science was turned into a second-class citizen, ostracized, made the other for other people in society to fear and to point the finger at. And that was a whole start of them using the fear narrative to control people. Anyways, let's watch the Green leader ask her question.
The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question goes to the heart of the issue. Does this government respect science? We're seeing cuts announced across environment and climate change in terms of their research efforts, Agriculture Canada and their critical research. Hundreds of scientists around the world have expressed alarm at killing an entire segment of our scientific capacity for insect taxonomy. The question is, has the Prime Minister ever consulted his chief science advisor about these cuts before the pink slips go out?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the question. As the member knows, we've made record investments in science and research in the 2024 budget and now the 2025 budget on our Impact Plus Chairs program. Some of the work we do is through government science, and we get good advice on that from our hardworking Chief Science Officer. And more importantly, and more in a greater form, we make significant investments through researchers outside of government. I had the recent opportunity to go to Vancouver Island and visit Ocean Networks Canada to accompany my colleague, the member for Victoria, and University of Victoria's Pacific Regional Institute for Marine Energy Discovery and the Centre for Aerospace Research in North Saanich. And I look forward to continuing to build on that work with the member and the member from Victoria.
And that concludes the question period.
Yes, indeed. That was question period. Well, let's move on to a few stories before the lower house starts. They are into statements by members. The House sits later on Wednesdays. They start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so Wednesday runs late for them. And I expect we will be seeing, at the very least, the leader of the CPC, but will we see the Prime Minister? I don't know. I mean, yesterday he avoided the House, but then found himself at a hockey game. Yeah, he has no problems going out to play some ball hockey, but God forbid he actually shows up and does his job in Parliament that he's getting paid quite handsomely for, and that he's abusing his station as Prime Minister to make himself even richer, ensuring that his massive investment portfolio continues to do rather well based on his policy decisions. All right, let's watch this. Wiretap Media has a post. Insane, he says. Senator Paulette Sr. wants the noose included as a hate symbol in Bill C9. Likely because it's a fearful symbol for modern-day people of color who never actually experienced public hangings. Canada has officially gone full retarded. Now let's bring this up and listen to it.
And I'm hoping in the same spirit, applaud you for sponsoring this bill. I look forward to working with you on it. At the briefing, I certainly had the opportunity to ask a few questions around some gaps that we see, particularly in terms of symbols of hate that are missing from the bill. And I'm hoping in the same spirit in terms of reviewing and looking at amendments that additional symbols such as the noose would be something that could be added as a hate symbol. My only concern is that that wasn't done at committee, that it's again coming to the Senate for that. So can you speak to perhaps the ability for that to happen?
This is insane. It's absolutely insane that you're going to start going through a book of knots and say, ooh, this slip knot here, that looks like a hate symbol. Let's ban that. Ooh, this little symbol here, that might upset somebody. Let's ban that. Yes, of course, it all started with the swastika. But then again, if you look at certain flags of certain nations that you know have committed crimes against humanity, and you feel really hurtful inside that when you look at that flag, that's a symbol of hate. Where does it stop? Where does it stop? I mean, I could use the liberal L, right? And make it turn into a swastika, put four of those together. Now, somebody's going to say, oh, that's a hate symbol. I mean, no, those are four liberal symbols put together in a kaleidoscope. Why do you hate your own symbol, liberals? Holly Dean over at Black Locks, I should say. Document net zero garage in White Horse cost taxpayers much more than disclosed by Environment Canada. The garage was budgeted to be completed in 2 years at $754,000. Instead, it took 7 years and $1.7 million without any parliamentary oversight. Yes, because that's how liberals do it. You have no idea the amount of money until you look at the total sum that is now missing from our treasury at $2.4 trillion. A massive debt load, more money spent than all other prior governments combined, with nothing to show for it except a net zero garage in Whitehorse, apparently. And what the hell is a net zero garage doing in Whitehorse, where it drops down to what, minus 40, minus 50 in the winter, where it's dark 6 months of the year? I mean, come on. You need energy to live up there. This net zero garbage, just never stops. Now, Mario Zelay says, wow, University of Guelph just banned a young woman for life for food chocolate. If you haven't seen this video, we're just going to bring down our output. So we had it cranked up to 4,000 kbs. Let's bring down to 3. Probably too much. Now, if you haven't seen this video, of this girl. She was basically out in a parking lot speaking with a family member. Somebody overheard the conversation, complained to the university. Then the university banned her and her entire family from ever setting foot on the property again because of something they overheard. Campus Safety Office decided the topic of that conversation was sufficient grounds for lifetime ban. Not her words, not her actions, a conversation she was listening to. She wasn't even participating in the conversation. This is totalitarian bullshit. And this is a prime example of what we have in store for us over the next 4 years under the Carney Liberals. They will use this same kind of ideological stupidity to basically stomp on your face forever with their liberal boot. Oh, you're thinking wrong. We heard you listening to something you shouldn't be listening to. That's it. You're not a member of society anymore. What kind of people are these? I'll tell you what kind of people they are. They are the kind of people who build a power base on a mountain of skulls, just like they have done in 1930s Nazi Germany. After all you have to do is look at the National Socialist policies of the Liberals as they are bringing them in. Gun confiscation, anyone? Ignoring the needs of your society in order to get into massive business deals with large industrial corporations, just like the Nazis did. Let's talk about euthanizing the useless eaters. Well, we're over 100,000 of those already in Canada, done away with since they brought in that program, a program that keeps expanding, a program that is now proactively being offered to people going in for basic health care, a program that is brought in not to help people, but to help the healthcare system that the Liberals destroyed by knowing that they could save $1.7 trillion by 2034, 37 or something if they offer to kill people instead of helping them with their healthcare issues. That's who they are. That's the kind of people that they are. Know them by what they do. Now, Carney had his by-elections, and I liked how they did this play on words by using the word buy as in purchasing as opposed to buy as in bye-bye. No, that's not even bye-bye. By the way, by-elections, but the world is not buying or betting on him advancing Canada. Bankers from around the world exiting the Canadian dollar, mostly for US dollar. Even Carney is not betting himself. His fortune bet is in the US. In fact, that's why 91% of his portfolio is invested there. Now, in the show earlier this morning, we were talking about G-fans and how Vice President Vance pretty well brought the hammer down, and he said that we're not going to be playing with this net zero BS. So all the other nations, the UNFN, the United Nations net zero ideology that's separate from G-fans, most of them have pulled out. So the only country that's really holding it together now and using our treasury to do it is Canada, because of course Carney is massively invested in net zero. It's his entire portfolio, and it's a good chunk of Brookfield as well, and the US knows it. And as long as we're tied to these ridiculous ideological purchases, we're in for a world of hurt. I mean, why would you make a pact with communists that basically harvest organs from their own citizens? Oh, it reminds me of the pact that Hitler made with Stalin, wasn't it? Yeah. Again, the National Socialism, having no morals, no ethics, and of course, where is Carney going? He's going out to all these other places as well with reasonable human rights issues to sign MOUs with them for future trade, while ignoring the trade that's not happening between us and the United States. I had a story on that. Let's move over here to Ontario. Ontario judge decries justice system for prioritizing foreign-born criminals over Canadian victims. Well, it's refreshing to finally see a judge say what we have been seeing with our eyes for so long. It's nice to see a judge say it when another judicial organization out there was bemoaning the fact that people were complaining about the justice system and finding that it doesn't have much integrity anymore. And they were like, oh no, we have integrity. People shouldn't be saying that. Well, then stop having a two-tier justice system. And people would stop saying it by then. Now it's good to see judges are noticing it. Ah, yes. Story that we have been following and covered on both this and Second Breakfast is the National Defense Deputy Minister, Christiane Fox, when she was in committee yesterday, trying to explain why she basically did a little bout of cronyism of her own, giving her friend a job. Oh, looks like they might be sitting. Or are they still applauding? Looks like they're just applauding. Statements by members. And just watching here, a still statement by members. Yeah, 20 after, still statement by members. Well, he runs a tight ship, but he never starts on time. I speak, of course, of the current Speaker of the House, who ensures that he sits during question period. Get all the glory for himself. Now, as Commissioner, I find that Mrs. Fox contravenes Section 9 of the Act by using her public office to improperly influence her administration and other department officials into hiring Mr. Charles, whom she had referred as an individual with no government or ATIP experience at a management level for which departmental officials had advised he was not qualified. So, of course, they're not going to fire her. They'll probably just move her departments. But again, and all the comments down there say the same thing that I was saying, right? Is that basically they're following the lead of their political masters. Because after all, if the politicians can get away with helping out their friends and family, then why can't the public servants? Well, unfortunately, the Liberals, those in Parliament, those appointed elected officials are pretty well protected from being arrested for practically anything. And they have very small fines. Well, they can do something to invoke that fine while making millions on the side. So they'll gladly pay that little fine. But you, my dear, no, you'll have that stain on your record. And still statement by members, do we have enough time to read this by Vote Canada? Well, yes, we do. It has to do with Bardish Jagger, another Liberal. She's been involved in a series of controversies that raised major questions about her judgment and her accountability when handling large amounts of taxpayer money. In the We charity scandal, she played a central role in pushing a multi-million-dollar sole source contract that would have given the organization up to $43 million to administer a student grant program worth hundreds of millions. And it looks like we're starting.
Three federal taxes. Mr. Speaker, there are three federal Liberal taxes on gas. Excise tax, the new carbon tax from the Liberal Prime Minister, and for clean fuel, and GST that is applicable to both. After the increase in the cost of living, the Prime Minister is suspending just one of the taxes after Conservative pressure. Why not follow the Conservative plan to save 25 cents a litre for consumers by eliminating all Liberal taxes all year?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the government has a comprehensive plan to increase affordability for Canadians, including suspending the excise tax on gas, and second of all, through a tax cut for the middle class, benefits for groceries and other essentials, as well as all other programs that saves $20,000 per year per family.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The middle class and lower classes are suffering under this Liberal government even worse than a year ago, according to StatsCan, that announces that the gap between the richest and the others is as big as ever. This Prime Minister is printing money. It creates inflation, which increases the haves of billionaires and also increases people's expenditures and costs. These taxes, these gas taxes are a tax on everything. Why does the Prime Minister not want to eliminate all Liberal gas taxes in order to help those who need it the most in Canada? Mr. Speaker, first of all, I'm the Prime Minister of Canada, not the Prime Minister, the Premier of Ontario, Premier of Quebec, Premier of British Columbia. The biggest taxes on gas are provincial taxes. First point. Second point, with regards to inflation here in Canada, it is lower than the Bank of Canada's target, and the increase in Canadian salaries is 4.7% per year, Mr. Speaker. Twice inflation rate.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
There are 3 Liberal taxes on gasoline. There's the excise tax. There's the new Liberal carbon tax that they call the fuel standard. And then they charge the GST on those other taxes. Because of Conservative pressure, this Prime Minister...
The Honourable Member for Hamilton, Ancaster, I believe it is far too loud during question period. Therefore, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition may start from the top.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. There are 3 Liberal taxes on gasoline. Number 1, there's the excise tax. Then there's the new Liberal carbon tax they call the fuel standard. And then they charge the GST on those other 2 taxes. Now, with Canada having the highest grocery price inflation in the G7 and paying 20% more at the pumps, we put the pressure on the Prime Minister, and he's partially backed down, removing only one of those taxes and only for a third of the year. Why doesn't he follow our full plan to reduce gas prices by 25 cents a litre by getting rid of all the taxes for all the year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what the government is proposing is to cut the excise tax, 10 cents a litre for gasoline, 4 cents on diesel. We've already cut the consumer carbon tax, 18 cents per litre. We are recycling all the excess revenues from higher oil prices to Canadians. What we are not doing is what the Leader of the Opposition is proposing, which is to substantially increase the deficit, something he's regularly against, by more than $3 billion, because this government can count, Mr. Speaker. This government can count.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
What he is not doing is increasing the deficit. It's only up by 100% since he took office, Mr. Speaker. Does he even read his own budget? Or does he want Canadians not to know what's inside it? In fact, all the money printing that he does, because he's famous for causing inflation, he's made a career out of it. Statistics Canada has made it clear that the gap between rich and poor is now greater than it's ever been in a report published just this week. One of the biggest taxes on the poor is the gas tax. Instead of just removing a third of the tax for the third of the year, why not get rid of the entire Liberal tax on gas for the whole year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, one thing I've learned in my economics education is you've got to study history and you've got to look at numbers. My record as a central bank governor is inflation less than 2% at the Bank of Canada, inflation less than 2% at the Bank of England. But let's get back to where we are today, which is wages in this country are growing at more than twice the rate of inflation, and I'll spell it out for the member opposite. That means Canadians are getting ahead.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It's clear that he's learned all the wrong lessons. Not only did he cause the housing crisis in London, not only did he cause the worst inflation in the G7 when he was the bank governor over there, he advised Justin Trudeau to print money here, causing inflation. And since arriving in Canada, he's given us the worst food price inflation in the G7, the worst investment in the G7, the worst housing costs in the G7, the worst household debt in the G7. So why doesn't he learn his lesson from all the failed economic experiments that only benefit insiders with tax havens like him and get rid of all the taxes on gas for all of the year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Mr. Speaker, I feel like I'm in the presence of students. And on an exam, I don't think you would pass the exam with those answers. Mr. Speaker, as the IMF confirmed yesterday, Canada will have the second fastest growth in the G7 this year. As the IMF confirmed yesterday, we have the best fiscal position in the G7. Point final. As we have confirmed, we have the highest foreign direct investment per capita in the world.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Oh, the Liberal arrogance. You can cut through it with a knife. This is someone...
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition may continue.
Yeah, we have, Mr. Speaker, what we have over there is inflation of Liberal arrogance. Yes. Right now, he wants to tell Canadians that they've never had it so good. When food prices are rising faster in Canada than any other country in the G7. When Canadian households are the most indebted in the G7. When Canadian housing costs are the most elevated in the G7. And when just today RBC reported that we have the worst investment in the G7. The question again is Canadians cannot afford gas at the pump. Why not get rid of all the taxes for all the year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
You have, Mr. Speaker, to learn a lesson, you have to have ears to hear. There are some on the benches opposite who've been listening, Mr. Speaker. And they will notice that wages are growing more than twice the rate of inflation in this country. They will notice that rents have gone down relative to incomes for 33 straight months. They will notice that I am out of time.
The Honourable Member for Belleville-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was elected on the basis of his skills in economics. He was going to protect Canada against tariffs. But the White House has just changed calculations on already illegal taxes on aluminium and steel. All products that have a significant value or amount of steel and aluminium, instead of paying the illegal tariff, will now pay 25% of the total value of the product. I assume that the government has raised this with the United States. Will Canada get the United States and the White House to do a 180? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, yes, we are working on it, and we are working with our companies, our businesses, our workers, our unions, in order to build a strong Quebec and a strong Canada. The Honourable Member for Belleville-Chambly. Could the Prime Minister be a bit less specific? Hundreds and hundreds of Quebec companies depend on the US markets, and they'll have to cut shifts, cut productions, and perhaps even close. This morning, the Journal de Montréal noted that BRP saw its share price drop by 30%. What will the Prime Minister do now to help companies and workers that are victims of this new bizarre decision from Trump? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are negotiating with the Americans with regards to the renewal of CUSMA. one of the key sectors are the sectors of steel, aluminium, softwood lumber, and the automotive industry. Negotiations will continue, but the starting point is the best trade agreement in the world with the States. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, indeed, it seems to be admitting that he does not know what's going on. Since the beginning of 2025, we've heard many words, but very few actions. Tariffs are getting worse every time the White House opens its mouth. The Prime Minister can't just wave his CV around, give speeches, and recruit floor crossers. What does the Prime Minister have to say to Canadians and Quebecers that see tariffs on their products that might have to close if there is no tangible action from this government? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, since my election last April, American tariffs have actually gone down. With regards to Canada, it was over 10%. It was at 5.5%. Now it's at 4.4%. We have progressed. We want more progress. We are working very hard on all of this. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, that the people of Terrebonne were very clear. We need to work for a strong Quebec and a strong Canada.
The honourable member. The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
35%. That's how much more Canadians are paying because of rising global oil prices. But in Newfoundland and Labrador, fuel isn't a choice, it's a necessity. Truckers need it to deliver goods, families need it just to get through the week. Yet Liberal taxes are driving prices even higher while this government pretends that a partial tax cut is real relief. Their plan applies to only a fraction of the taxes that they collect while they take billions from struggling Canadians. When will the Liberals stop punishing Canadians and finally remove all federal taxes on gas so Canadians can save 25 cents a litre for the rest of the year?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, I am proud to stand today and talk about what this government is doing for Canada and for Newfoundland and Labrador. $8 billion. That's right, $8 billion for 5-winged Goose Bay. $12 billion for Newfoundland and Labrador companies that are invested in long-term defence capacity building. Bay du Nord. While this member reads her prepared notes, on this side of the House, we are doing the hard work.
That is so good. Very good.
Honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Speaker, the Single Parents Association of Newfoundland and Labrador in that member's riding reported that the high gas prices are driving single parents to make impossible decisions like heat their home or put food on the table. Yet $10 billion, that's how much this Liberal government will still collect in fuel taxes this year, while people in Newfoundland and Labrador pay some of the highest gas prices at the pump in Canada. Their plan saves just pennies, while costs hit rural and remote communities the hardest. Conservatives have a plan to cut 25 cents a litre for the rest of the year. Will they stop these half measures and deliver real relief for hardworking Canadians?
Minister.
Continues to read the same tired notes. On this side of the House, we are working to support rural communities with infrastructure that's available for roads, schools, hospitals. We are working to support families with the Canada Child Benefit, with school nutrition programs, with a $10 a day childcare, and on the list goes. And by the way, the Conservatives voted against all of it.
All of it.
The honourable member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As always, the Liberals are claiming collaboration but delivering obfuscation, accepting the Conservative argument that the gas prices in this country are too high. But as always, they give a half measure, not even half, delivering a third of the proposed tax cut the Conservatives have offered for a third of the year. If the Liberal government is serious about affordability, why not do what the Conservatives have been proposing to save Canadians 25 cents a litre on gas, $1,200 a year, cut the GST on fuel, cut the fuel excise tax, and cut the Liberal fuel standard.
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, let me help the member opposite. We have already cut taxes on gasoline by 28 cents a litre since becoming the new government. We have reduced taxes for the middle class. We have cut GST. We have eliminated development charges. We've eliminated development charges to reduce the price of a home by $200,000 in my riding. That's what affordability looks like.
The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Mr. Speaker, if my car ran on hot air, I wouldn't care about the tax cut after that answer. But most Canadians don't have the ability to do what these liberal insiders are doing and weather all of this. They blame Iran, neglecting the fact that 25 cents a litre goes directly into government coffers. This is a very real suggestion. People in Elgin, St. Thomas, and London don't view driving as a luxury. They know it is a necessity to get around, to get to work, to drive the kids to school. So why won't this Liberal government take these concerns seriously and drop 25 cents a litre right now?
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, I'm confused. 28 cents a litre is hot air? 28 cents a litre?
Whoa, whoa, whoa. The noise isn't just coming from the right corner in the back. There's a lot of it coming from here. The Honourable Minister may start from the top.
Mr. Speaker, I'm confused. 28 cents a litre cut in gasoline is hot air? $200,000 on a new home is hot air? If that's what he thinks is hot air, maybe he needs to go back to school.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
After years of Conservative pressure, the Liberals have announced a watered-down version of our Conservative plan. The Liberals are only removing a third of the fuel tax for a third of the year, all while still collecting up to $10 billion more from taxpayers. I've heard from the community I represent in Hamilton, and that's not enough. Conservatives will remove the whole tax for the full year. So will the Prime Minister listen to Canadians, vote with us, and bring real relief at the pumps?
Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Try as they might, the Conservatives are not fooling Canadians, and that member is not fooling Hamiltonians, Mr. Speaker. They know that fuel is too expensive because of the war in the Middle East, and they also know that our Liberal government is meeting the moment with a tax cut for 22 million Canadians, with affordable childcare and dental care for families, with the groceries and essentials benefit to deliver up to $1,800 for families with a modest income, Mr. Speaker. And as a result of this week's affordability announcement, we are letting Canadians keep $2.4 billion in their hands, in their pockets after they earn that hard-earned money at the gas pumps, Mr. Speaker. Canadians can see right through the Conservative bluster on this issue.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
The Prime Minister confirmed Conservatives have the solution for Canadians, but he's only delivering a third of our plan. Liberals are keeping the GST and the clean fuel standard. It's time to cut all the tax for a full year. Our plan will cut an extra 25 cents per litre, which will save families $1,200 per year. This is what Hamilton wants. Mr. Speaker, let's make it a great day for Canadians. Will the Prime Minister vote with us and bring real relief at the pumps?
The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, the party of no can't seem to take yes for an answer. We just canceled the excise tax on gas, saving 10 cents a litre for a family, 28 cents since we became the government, $2.4 billion in the pockets of family. And what do these guys say? They say no. They say no to all our affordability issues, no to the food and groceries essentials. They don't say yes to Canadians. We are building a real plan for real families and real affordability, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
After 11 years of Liberals, affordability is getting worse for Northerners despite what they tell you. From their own recent Nutrition North report, quote, in Northwest Territories, 60.7% of Inuit are food insecure, and in Nunavut, 76% of Inuit experience food insecurity. The question is, will Liberals vote for our Conservative motion to remove all federal taxes on gas and diesel? Or Canadians can save 25 cents a litre for the rest of the year? Or will they keep voting for half measures?
The Honourable Minister for Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we're making life more affordable in the North, not just in big cities, but across Northern and Indigenous communities. We've cut taxes for 22 million Canadians so Northern families could keep more in their pocket. The Permanent National School Food Program is saving families $800 a year, and we're also cutting costs for jet fuel, which is going to impact communities throughout north of 60. We're tackling food costs and building all-season infrastructure in the North and Arctic. We're building for all of Canada, Mr. Speaker.
Le député de Drummond.
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, regional French language news media is under threat, and this is even more true since the RTC added 15 global news stations to the Independent Local News Fund, but without increasing the funding. There are more media outlets, but they're sharing the same funds. Yesterday, when we alerted the Minister, he accused us of dividing francophones and anglophones, but on the contrary, we want all regional news media to be adequately supported. But the reality is, French language media in Quebec are losing half of their funding. Will the Prime Minister increase the fund to rectify this? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Be it the Credit Fund, the Independent and Local News Fund, or other measures, the member knows that we will always support the Francophone media sector in a very strong way. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Well, it's time to actually act, Mr. Speaker. Of course, the solution lies in contributions from the digital giants. But in the meantime, our media outlets are closing down, and Ottawa is not doing enough to prevent this. Currently, GAFAM are fighting all the way to the courts to avoid paying their fair share. That is the reason for which the government must increase funding for independent local news outlets. It must offer radio and TV stations a tax credit for journalists' salaries, as Quebec does. It must stop rewarding advertising on the platforms of the GAFAM companies. There are plenty of steps to take, but now it's becoming more than urgent to act. When will the Minister finally take action? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, yes, the GAFAM companies have to pay their fair share, but if the Bloc really believe in what they just said, they would have supported our investment of $127 million. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister chose to reduce oil taxes by just 1/3. The result? Canadians are still paying 15 cents in federal tax per litre of gas. The Liberals' inflation over the last 11 years is costing Canadians a lot, to the people of the Beauce, workers and businesses. This shows a lack of respect and a total disconnect from our citizens. Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Prime Minister. Will the Prime Minister vote in favour of our Conservative motion to suspend all federal taxes on gas? The Honourable Minister for Industry. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers woke up yesterday with great news. The same for Canadians, as you know. It's important to make sure that we find the means to help Quebec households and Canadian households to manage the impacts of inflation because of the war in Iran. And that is a reason for which we decided to suspend the gas excise tax, a measure that was very well received in Quebec and throughout the country. This on the coattails of other great investments made by the government to support families throughout Quebec and throughout Canada. A tax reduction announced a few months ago, but also benefits for groceries. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, 4 cents a litre. That's not going to change anything. It's a farce. Canadians are being suffocated by the Liberals' inflationary cost of living. In federal oil taxes, the government has collected an extra $10 billion. $10 billion, which is 10,000 million. Instead of lining off for Ottawa's coffers and enriching their cronies at the cost of billions, can the Liberals really help our people, the people on the ground? My question is simple. Will the Prime Minister stop picking the pockets of Canadians and reduce the cost of living? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, you know, in Ottawa, we actually do our homework. We do what needs to be done. We've suspended the gas excise tax. We've reduced the tax burden on Canadians and Quebecers, and we also help people to fight against food inflation at the grocery store. But my Quebec is from Quebec like me. Quebec will also do the work, and we will work with the new Premier of Quebec, who has promised in her programme to also fight against food inflation and the cost of living in Quebec. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a fact the Liberal government is set to pocket over $10 billion extra with the rise of oil prices. The Liberals have announced a third of our proposal, and only until September. $10 billion unbudgeted. Why not take an extra $5 billion in tax revenue and remove all taxes on oil for the whole of 2026 to finally give Canadians a bit of breathing space, as the Conservative Party is proposing? Will they do this? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's true, we don't control gas prices that have increased because of the war in Iran and tensions in the Middle East. What we do control is what we do to help Canadians. I was able to reiterate the fact that Quebecers will see a 10-cent per litre reduction, which will help families to spend less. We also control how we vote in the House. And in my riding's constituency, over 40,000 people now have access to dental care. Why is he always against helping his own people?
The Honourable Member for Richmond Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, home ownership is a priority for Canadians. But now, it just seems like a far-off dream. We all know that here. The average sale price of a home in Quebec went up by 6.9%. For a single-family home, the price went up by 6.3%. For a row home and a multiplex, it was 5.3%. For condos, it was 7.7%. When will the Liberal government adopt our plan to boost residential construction by lifting the GST on all new homes? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a good opportunity to remind members of one of the first things we did in this House, which was to lift the GST for first-time homebuyers. But we're going farther than that. Build Canada Homes will build at an unprecedented rate all across the country. I would remind my colleague that Quebec was the first province to sign an agreement with Build Canada Homes. We will get homes built all throughout the country. We will expand supply to bring down prices. And it's remarkable that the Conservatives are finally getting interested in making housing cheaper. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Lafjord. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals would have us believe that they care about regular people's concerns, but that is not the reality that Canadians are experiencing. In Saguenay, the price of a duplex has gone up by 24% year over year. What is more, a study by Desjardins has concluded that the situation will only get worse. Young people want their own home, but they see no light at the end of the tunnel. When will the Liberal government put more money back in the pockets of young Quebecers so that Canadians can finally afford their first home? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a lot of respect for my colleague. We have worked together. We are working to bring down rental prices in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean. We know this is an important issue, and that is why we have lifted the GST for first-time home buyers. But we will go even farther than that. We will invest in the members' riding to secure more home building. We will invest in his region. This is a priority for our government.
For Sarnia, Lambton, Bukidnon.
And a real plan to build a strong and more independent Canadian economy. Since the conflict in the Middle East began, this global volatility has impacted the wallets of Canadians. We need more direct support for them. Yesterday morning, we saw just that. Can the Secretary of State inform Canadians how our new government is bringing down costs for essentials at home in the face of instability abroad?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for Sarnia-Lambton for that great question and determination to do what's right for Canada.
That's right.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister announced that we will be suspending the excise tax on gasoline and diesel, meaning Canadians will save 10 cents per litre in gasoline, putting more money in Canadians' pockets as they face higher gas prices by global uncertainty. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we are focused on making life more affordable for Canadians. The other side continues with the rhetoric. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, let's get serious. Folks in Oshawa are reaching their breaking point. 74% of Canadians say the cost of food and gas is crushing them. 43% are just $200 away from not paying their bills. Families are cutting back and putting off major decisions, while young people are losing hope that they will ever get ahead. Despite all this, the Prime Minister stands here and has the audacity to claim that affordability is the best it's ever been and Canadians are getting ahead. Shameful. Why won't the Prime Minister fully cut taxes on the gas and food so that Oshawa families can actually get ahead?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, far be it from any member on this side of the House to deprive the Conservative leader of driving the Conservative bus deeper down into the valley of unpopularity. But rest assured, Mr. Speaker, we will save them money at the gas pump along the way. 10 cents per litre with the excise tax having been suspended for the next 4 months, and 28 cents since this government got into power. That's in addition to the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. That's in addition to a tax cut for 22 million Canadians. We're the party that's making affordability a reality.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, Oshawa and Durham Region families cannot pay their bills or put food on the table with these Liberal half measures and talking points. After years of their government spending, 61% of Canadians say that they are facing financial whiplash. Conservatives have put forward a real plan. Suspend all federal gas taxes through to the end of 2026. But once again, the Liberals are taking a great Conservative idea and watering it down. Will the Prime Minister stop the half measures, deliver real relief, fully cut taxes on gas and food for Oshawa families and all Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, it's hard to take this member seriously when she has voted against every affordability measure that impacts families in Durham Region. She stood up in this House and voted against the Groceries and Essentials benefit. She's voted against a tax cut for 22 million Canadians. They say they want us to cut taxes at the pump. That's exactly what we're doing, and yet they're opposed to it. So we're making life more affordable. Where was she when we announced a major project to give jobs to 21,700 members of the Durham Region community for the SMR project?
The honourable member for Terra Nova, the Peninsula.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal Prime Minister claimed he was going to have responsible budgets and fix Canada's economy. Instead, he actually spent more reckless spending than Justin Trudeau, and now Atlantic Canadians are having to spend more and struggle more. Atlantic Canadians are working harder, and yet they're not getting any headway. Nearly a third of Canadians say they don't even have enough to cover their bills. We are in serious trouble, Mr. Speaker. When will this government get serious about affordability?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Speaker, I'd like to remind the opposition member from Newfoundland and Labrador, Beta North is a way that we support Newfoundland and Labrador with jobs, money in the economy, $8 billion, five-wing Goose Bay, $12 million to support local companies. I also want to remind this member who has fishing and harvesters in his riding, the renewal of the Atlantic Fish Fund, Atlantic's Wild Salmon Fund. We are doing the work. We are not reading tired notes, and we are not following just poor politics.
The honourable member for Terra Nova, the Peninsula.
Mr. Speaker, I just asked a question about affordability, and I can't believe I never heard anything about affordability. But I guess that's no surprise, considering this fisheries minister voted against my bill that would have allowed struggling Newfoundlanders and Labradorians to fish for food 7 days a week on Wednesdays, go out in their small boats, they can fish for food, bring down their grocery bill. Will this fisheries minister allow Newfoundlanders to fish 7 days a week to help with their grocery bill? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, we debated the private member's bill. It was defeated for very good reasons. What I will remind this member from Newfoundland and Labrador about is that we follow due diligence. an open consultation on what the recreational fishery needs to look like. What we heard report will be coming out very shortly. We will follow with select consultations, and then I will, based on what I have heard, I will put a plan together for this season. That's how we set policy that actually aligns with the needs of communities. Again, not just tired notes and rhetoric.
The honourable member for Edmonton Manning.
Mr. Speaker, he makes promises, but the Prime Minister fails to make life more affordable. Canadians are experiencing financial whiplash under this Liberal government. Nearly three-quarters say rising prices for essentials like food and gas are straining their finances. Unpredictable conditions mean cutting back on spending and delaying major financial decisions. Canada is less affordable under this Prime Minister. Will he help Canadians by adopting our Conservative plan to cut all federal taxes on gas and food?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Emergency Management and Community Resilience.
Mr. Speaker, what I hear when I travel through Alberta is how supportive people are of the government advancing priorities for Albertans, things that matter most to them: affordability, energy, and economic growth. The announcement to temporarily remove the federal excise tax on gas will help families and farmers, truck drivers and business operators throughout the province. We're working hard to build a country where Albertans and all Canadians can have greater prosperity.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance recused himself from the Alto high-speed rail project months ago, and yet no one was made aware of this. Yet he's been promoting the project. He even voted on the project. So what's the point of recusing yourself if you're just going to stay involved anyway? Recusal is supposed to be about removing yourself from a project when there is a conflict of interest. If there is a conflict of interest, how come the Minister of Finance won't come to the Finance Committee and explain to Quebecers what they need to know? The Honourable Member. The Finance Minister has fully answered those questions. The member knows full well that we follow the most stringent ethics laws in the world. As for Alto and the high-speed rail project, I would reassure members that Quebecers have noted the Conservative leader's opposition to this major nation-building project, which will change transportation in Canada forever. The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At the Ethics Committee, we've just started a second hour of Liberal filibustering. These Liberals are talking about everything except the motion before the committee. The motion is asking for the Finance Minister, Alto, and the Ethics Commissioner to come to the committee to answer questions about conflict of interests. We would like to be talking about the Trans-Canada Highway, but the Liberals are only bringing up ridiculous things like turkeys on Highway 50. Will the minister finally come to the Ethics Committee and answer some of our questions? The Honourable Government House Leader. If the member would like to talk about Highway 50, well, I'm sure the member for Argenteuil-La-Petite-Nation would like to talk a little bit about it, given that we have projects in place to improve the most dangerous highway in Quebec. As I have noted, the Finance Minister has rigorously followed all ethics rules. And as for the high-speed rail project, we will take no lessons from the Conservative Party. We will take no lessons about transportation or this generational investment, which will change transportation in Canada forever.
For Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
The law is clear that ministers must not use their position to further the personal interests of their family members, but the finance minister is championing the multi-billion-dollar Alto project where his partner is a vice president. Now, it was the finance minister who told the prime minister that he was concerned about a conflict of interest because of that relationship and said that he needed to recuse himself, and Canadians agree. The problem is that's not what he did. Now, the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics wants to review the matter, have the minister come to clear the air. Instead, we have a Liberal filibuster. So will the minister end the filibuster and come to committee?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
You want to know who's championing high-speed rail in Canada? 173 Liberal MPs on this side of the House who are going to build major nation-building projects, including high-speed rail, a major project for national unity, a major project for mobility in our country, a project that will favor the building trades, men and women, steel, aluminum, lumber. We're going to put people to work using Canadian materials, and we're going to move that train as fast as we can, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Well, the problem is for these Liberals is that their Liberal candidates in the area even know that this is so unpopular that they're speaking out against this boondoggle. And Canadians want accountability from these Liberals. It's $90 billion, and the minister is refusing to come to committee, and there's this Liberal filibuster that persists. My question is to the chair of the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics. Can he tell the House why the minister hasn't been scheduled to appear to testify on this conflict of interest scandal?
The Honourable Chair of the Access to Information and Ethics Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the member's quite right. If the minister had nothing to hide, he'd have nothing to fear coming to the Ethics Committee. The Ethics Committee will be heading into its 12th hour with the Liberals filibustering an amendment that Conservatives actually support. Mr. Speaker, the motion calls on the Finance Minister to explain his claim that he's recused himself from decisions on Alto when it's clear he did not. Yesterday, the Liberal Prime Minister promised Canadians that they would see less showboating, more relevance, and substantive debate at committee. So if the Prime Minister truly believes that, why doesn't he tell his members to stand down and have the Finance Minister appear?
The Honourable Member for Honoré Mercier. The Honourable Member for Honoré Mercier. The Honourable Member for Honoré Mercier. Mr. Speaker, Bill C-22 will be debated in the House once again today. This is a crucial bill which will help to counter serious crimes like extortion and help police investigations move faster. This measure has been asked for by police officers from across the country, including the member for Medicine Hat Cardston Warner. Could the Minister of Justice explain to the House how important Bill C-22 is for the safety of all Canadians?
Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the member for Honoré Mercier for his question. Crime is increasing in frequency and sophistication. Criminals are using digital tools to abuse children and engage in human trafficking. C-22 would bring about lawful access, giving police officers the tools they need to combat organized crime and protect our communities. Police officers from Quebec and Canada have called for these tools. We have listened to them, and I call on all members to support this important bill.
Member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Once again, the Liberals are giving to our troops with one hand, but taking with the other. The Prime Minister and Minister of National Defence love to brag about their fake raise they gave to the forces. The reality is many of our troops are taking home less on their paychecks because of Liberal policy changes. Sadly, military families were only given 1 week's notice before the change to their out-of-pocket, out-of-country living allowances, in some case reducing their take-home pay by up to $1,500. Why are the Liberals short-changing frontline troops who are putting their lives on the line to defend Canada?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, there's nothing fake about 8%, 13%, and 20% pay raises. That's the first thing to keep in mind. The member knows better than to raise this subject matter, which is important this way. 90,000 members of the forces are getting a pay raise. He's aware of that. We've invested in hundreds of new housing units on and off basis, Mr. Speaker, 800 homes are being constructed today. We've modernized the application process. Mr. Speaker, we're making progress. I'm looking forward to thoughtful and earnest suggestions for improvement. That was not one of them.
Yeah, you voted against. The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Well, Mr. Speaker, all that bragging is just talk and no action. It's the Minister of National Socialist's job to fight for the best interests of those who put on the uniform, to fight for each and every one of us. These brave Canadians deployed to Latvia and other places around the world without hesitation. They sacrifice months away from their loved ones in the name of Canada because the minister tells them they have to. It is his job to make sure they're treated as the best that this country has to offer. Instead of making excuses or bragging, will the defense minister take responsibility and help our military families make ends meet?
The honourable minister.
It's a bit rich, Mr. Speaker. He's voted against every single proposal to look after our forces. He has no ground to stand on, Mr. Speaker. The members of the Canadian Armed Forces carry out important work on behalf of Canada here at home and around the world. We've introduced a suite of cost of living supports to support them and their families. That's a well-deserved pay raise. $100 million for additional childcare. $3.7 billion for 7,500 new housing units. Our work to support the members of the Canadian Armed Forces, Mr. Speakers, and their families continues each and every day.
The honourable member for Vernon Lake Country, Monashee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the minister is telling us half the story about the pay raises. What he's forgetting is that overseas reductions of over $1,500 a month are being taken back from living allowances. These are real families putting their lives on the line abroad who are given just 6 days' notice and are now scrambling to adjust. This Liberal government increases pay only to claw it back. The headlines all scream about increased military pay, but why are so many frontline soldiers deployed overseas actually being forced to take a pay cut?
Minister of National Defence.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, let's be factual. 8%, 13%, 20% pay increases. Annual retention bonuses based on years of service. Instructor benefits, special incentives to allow folks to move from the practicing of their trades in the forces to become instructors. We're making progress, Mr. Speaker. We are all together, collectively rebuilding the Canadian Armed Forces. The members on both sides of the House are aware of this. I would welcome their thoughtful input.
The honourable member for Richmond East, Steveston.
Mr. Speaker, global conflicts and chaotic and irrational decision-making with critical oil supply chains has led to increased global prices. While these events seem distant, they are already pushing prices higher at the pump, grocery store, and causing Canadians to rethink where they're booking their summer holiday. Budget 2025 laid out how Canada's new majority government will create a more independent and resilient Canadian economy. Can the Secretary of State lay out how our government is supporting Canadians day to day?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member from Richmond East Steveston for that great question. Yes, indeed. Yesterday we paused and suspended the excise tax on fuel, 10 cents. We cut the consumer carbon tax. That's another 18 cents, 28 cents total. We cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. Groceries and essentials benefit, $1,900 per family this year, $1,400 a family for the next 4 years. On this side of the House, we're going to continue to focus on bringing costs down for Canadians, making life more affordable for Canadians. That side continues with the rhymes and the rhetoric. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, on April 6th, the U.S. government imposed Section 232 tariffs that threatened nearly 60,000 Canadian jobs and hit an industry worth $6 billion that feeds a manufacturing sector that's worth over $100 billion. These new tariffs are hammering our mold makers right now. Some companies are thinking of moving to the U.S., unfortunately. Canadian mold makers are in Washington today trying to negotiate on their own because this Liberal government is refusing to do that. When will the Prime Minister show that he cares about Windsor workers and Canadian businesses and actually defend our country's economy and our jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Speaker, of course,
course, we will be there for the Windsor workers affected by these tariffs, and that is why also, along with Premier Ford, I was in Windsor a month ago to open a new important battery factory with 3,000 new jobs in Windsor. That being said, Mr. Speaker, we're well aware of what my colleague is referring to. I met with the steel industry again yesterday. I've been working the phone, and my colleague, the Minister of U.S. Trade, also has been on this. Our entire team in Washington is also activated. We will defend our steel workers. We'll defend aluminum workers. Thank you.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, grocery giants are ripping off Canadians again. First, they colluded to fix bread prices. Now, they're committing fraud by deceptive weight labels on meat. They are literally putting their fingers on the scales to overcharge shoppers. And instead of enforcing the law, the Liberals cut Canadian food inspectors, the only way to protect consumers. This Prime Minister said he wanted to be judged on the cost of groceries. Will he take action to stop the food monopoly from cheating Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Where I agree with my colleague is definitely we don't want companies to pass costs to consumers. We will be there to protect consumers at a time where we know the Competition Bureau needs to do its work. That is why my team and I have engaged the Competition Bureau. We will be hawkish on competition. We will go against any form of illegal form of proceedings. Thank you.
That's it. Alors, ça met un terme à la période des questions.
That ends our time for question period today. The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
There have been discussions among the parties, and if you seek it, I hope you'll find unanimous consent for the following motion. I move that, in the opinion of the House, the government should ban surveillance pricing, where personal data is used by corporations to increase the prices consumers pay, both in-store and online.
Unfortunately, the member does not have unanimous consent. It being 3:15, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion of Mr. Halland relating to the business of supply.
Well, that was the lower house for today, April 15, 2026. So the first 6 questions, as usual, whenever the leaders are both in the House. Conservatives ask the first 6 questions. Prime Minister answers the first 6 questions. Then the next 3 questions go to the Bloc. And sometimes the Prime Minister answers more than 2 questions. This time, of course, I think he only answered 1, maybe 2. But then, of course, it went straight to the Finance Minister. And, of course, all those questions were about the fuel tax, right? Why couldn't you reduce the taxes all the way? Why could you only do half measures? Well, we know why. Because they need the money. They need the money because they can't stop spending. Also brought up was the tariffs. They brought that up twice. And, of course, remember, Arnie promised that he was the only guy who'd get a deal. And here we are a year later, and still no bloody deal. Of course, the Bloc whined again about media funding. Oh, if the digital service providers only paid their fair share. No, just let the media die. Let the media die and let it transform itself into what the new media needs to be. This constant of paying off legacy media to exist when they are losing their audience time after time. This is like, it's like continuing to send money to vaudeville shows after everyone is going to see moving pictures. Right now, the movie houses, you had to turn people away. People are going in to watch these new moving pictures. Meanwhile, the vaudeville shows, they slowly died out. Now, imagine if we just kept paying theater like that. Oh, no, all the movie theaters, right? They need to now pay a certain amount of the tickets that they get at the door so we can transfer that money over to theaters where live people do shows. This is the same bloody thing they're doing to the media, right? They just won't let it move on from itself. It is a walking corpse. Home ownership was brought up very, very briefly, which really just ties into the whole affordability issue. And not surprising, there's that fisheries minister once again refusing to allow people to basically use the fruits of the sea for themselves. But no, that's we have to control everything. You can't go out and feed yourself. No, we have to provide the food. Newfoundlanders. I mean, the sea's right bloody there, and the government's telling them, no, you can't go feed yourself. Can you imagine that? Imagine that. That's just horrible. They have absolutely no respect for human life. Alto, of course, came up, bringing up the same bloody points, and I'm not surprised that they are filibustering once again, now up to 12 hours, like they said. We mentioned earlier this morning on the show it was 10 hours from the day before. And of course, I mean, it's quite obvious. It's quite obvious that this is an ethics breach. His bloody wife works for the company that he created a budget for, that he voted on, that he promoted. You can't just say, I have a conflict, and then carry on being conflicted, which is what he did. And of course, Stephen McKinnon, who's known to lie like a rug, constantly saying, we have the strictest ethic rules, and yeah, whatever. You can say all you want, but we can see with our bloody eyes what is happening. So it's good that they keep hammering that. Although I'm surprised nobody brought up the Iran thing again today, because that would have been more embarrassment for the Liberals. And even the Liberals are like, why do you guys keep asking the same questions? We have other talking points to answer, and that's what they did. They would just turn around and say, these are rules. I have to announce these things from my department and not even answer your question, even though you keep asking the same question, even though we will never answer your question. Indeed. The military. So they were talking about $1,500 being removed from living allowances. Now, this is for people not living in the country, from what they said. So there's not that many Canadians living outside the country that are in the military, but still, it's a cost of living allowance because you're sending them there on a tour. And if they're allowed to bring their family with them, great, they can bring their family with them. But they've got to remember, wherever they're going, odds are their spouse ain't going to find the job. Right? So you're going to have to support them on top of the local living expenses. So now they're going to take that money away. Screw that. I'd be like, okay, I'd be sending my family home, and I'd be saying, now you're going to have to find me a place to live. Or I would just bring my bedroll and sleep in the office, I guess. And most of those people, of course, would be like clerk at a military clerk that might have a posting at an embassy somewhere. People working at areas in the industry that support the military, because we have those people there, various engineers and stuff being assigned to those areas. We also have people on exchange in other militaries. So they're working there, probably brought their families as well. But yeah, they always give with one hand and take away with the other. Oh, but look at all the money we're spending on the troops. And what I heard them interesting, it was just something we were always asking for when I was serving, was like a retention bonus. Well, now they have no choice. They can't fill the ranks. So now they're offering money for people to stay. There's a lot of those people there. They were just marking time to get the hell out after the COVIDity stupidity. And we know what's going on with recruiting. We're like, we expediting the vetting process for recruiting. Well, yeah, you expedited it to the point where there's no entrance level exam. Or there is an exam. Oh, you're white? Sorry, you can only have one of you. Now I need 20 of gendered, different color, different cultures, different ethnic backgrounds. Yeah. Okay, we got 19 of those. Okay, let one more white person in. Oh, no, sorry. You're a white woman. We can let you in. Yeah. Oh, sorry, too many white guys. Hang on. So of course they can't fill the ranks, right? Because they have their affirmative action quotas. And they also have an affirmative action quota of 25% of the Canadian forces needs to be women. Yeah, 25%. Or is it just over 25.1%? Something ridiculous like that. So it's not about merit when it comes to the Liberals. It's about politics. It's about politics influencing everything, including science. And the grocery fraud was brought up, of course, by the NDP. Well, that's pretty good. That was a story that we also covered. And of course, I mentioned, when you go to the grocery store, if you're curious whether or not your meat is actually the weight that it is, usually in the produce section, there will be a scale. Bring your meat there. Now, mind you, it's an analog scale, So you're not getting an exact reading, but you should be able to see close enough what it's at. And again, those scales, by the way, should have a little weight sticker on it from last time it was confirmed that it's still semi-accurate. And that was it today. That was pretty well the entire show. All right, well, come back and join us tomorrow morning at 9 for a second breakfast, and then we will be back again tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 for the nap, the no answer period. And it's so far, looking at the schedule ahead, there doesn't seem to be anything scheduled on Friday. So let's confirm that. Yes, look, they have populated Friday. So up until today, Friday was not populated, and neither was the entire following week. I was curious, maybe they were going to prorogue on Friday, but I guess not. I guess we're in it for the long haul, all the way to the 17th. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming out. Please like, share, subscribe. I really appreciate all my followers and subscribers. Warms the cockles of my heart. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Instead of clearing the air, we now have the spectacle of Liberal MPs filibustering at committee to shield the minister from accountability. So it begs the question, is this what Canadians can expect a Liberal majority government to look like?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Speech yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that.
The Minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears.
It's really hard to follow, isn't it, Mr. Speaker?
All of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Know that this government has their back and we will continue to do it. Moving forward, there's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Deficits are driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer.
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Hey, of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest.
Mr. Speaker, the grand reveal has been...
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
There was some very unparliamentary language that we heard today.
Sets us up well for the new world order.
It is a generational project, one that is desired by people in that member's riding and people all over Canada, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lake.
We've got the government House Leader disagreeing with his finance minister here, and this is the confusion that's created for Canadians. It's the finance minister who said that he needed to recuse himself from the discussions. He said he needed...
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
My comment by telling the truth that the answer was bovine excrement.
Seeing today from the government is a government pursuing confusion, a policy of confusion and a policy of confusion that has the whole province of British Columbia upset. So earlier today in question period, the Minister of Indigenous Relations said that the government will pursue all legal options. Can she just clarify for British Columbians whether that includes an argument to protect the private property rights of the British Columbians impacted by the Cowichan decision? Yes or no, a straight answer in good faith.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk about the dream of high-speed rail for Canadians. 1,000 kilometers of linear project that will change the face of mobility in...
There are important issues we're discussing, and Canadians are watching.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's be clear. This band of conservatives is who is sowing dissent and anxiety in Canada. The government has been crystal clear. We support some respect.
I didn't really hear all the words there, but it was an interruption. So the minister may start from the top.
Pretend like you're talking to
and he may from the top again if the honourable member for Thompson-Nicola continues. So the honourable minister of the honourable member for Lakeland, I think it is. Okay, the honourable member will the honourable. Let's just all take a moment. Take a moment. Okay. All I know is that we don't have the required silence, and unfortunately, I can't hear all the banter. That's the unfortunate part. So I don't know who's to blame, who was first, and all of that. But let's have some quiet so that the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure can start from the top and answer this very important question on this very important issue.